After his death, she discovered amazing secrets on her husband's forbidden ranch. What she found. Claire Dawson sat on the creaky attic floor, scanning the haze of dust motes dancing in the rays of light filtering through the window. It felt surreal and heavy, the way life had changed overnight. The loss of her husband, Mark, a decorated war veteran, plunged her into a grief as thick as the humidity on a summer's day. She barely remembered the vibrant laughter of their children, Lily and Ben, who were now playing below, engrossed in a world entirely unaffected by the sorrow looming overhead. Claire's heart ached as she tangled with memories, each one a bittersweet reminder of the love they had shared. With every box she shuffled, Claire felt her heart shatter and rebuild like fragile glass. Inside was a forgotten world of toys, old photographs, and remnants of Mark's life before they met. Just when she thought her tears would run dry, her fingers brushed against something leathery. The cover of a journal, Mark's journal. Hesitation coursed through her, but curiosity pushed forward. Pages crinkled under her touch as she began to unravel the secrets hidden within. The moment she opened it, the past thundered back to life. As I sit atop the ridge of our family ranch. Each word penned with care pulled Claire deeper into Mark's world. Stories wrote themselves into her mind. A horse named Buck who whinnied at dusk, long-forgotten family feuds, and a struggle for survival in a town that felt so different from Maple Creek. The ranch had been a sanctuary, a refuge for both Mark and those he longed to help. Grief twisted inside her, a constant hum. Why hadn't he told her? What troubles had he borne alone? Each entry she consumed felt like a betrayal, a secret interred within layers of silence. His passion for the less fortunate reshaped her understanding of the man she married. Why hadn't he reached out, spoken truthfully about these burdens? The kinship she thought they shared now felt less certain as shadows of doubt danced in her heart. But then the anger subsided, replaced by determination. Claire had 2 young lives to consider. With each word she absorbed, a flicker ignited within her. She could honor Mark by continuing his mission, advocating for the families he quietly supported. The journal crackled with his belief in justice, in righting wrongs, and his love for the community that seemed oblivious to his sacrifices. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every entry, her mind twisted in knots. He had faced elements she'd never known, confrontation and risk. Danger simmered silently in the words he penned. Letters that spoke of his desire to help but were thick with apprehension. An entry chilled her blood. A confrontation he'd faced, details blurred and hastily penned. The diary closed abruptly, as if the ink had fled in fear. As she closed the journal, a deeper realization settled in the crevice of her heart. The battle to continue his fight was only beginning. Shadows loomed ahead. Had Mark been safe? With everything in turmoil, could she rally a community still shrouded in prejudice? Doubts throbbed like a drum. Would she succeed in uniting them against the darkness that needed to be illumined? A flicker of hope ignited amidst the uncertainty, and the weight of Mark's legacy settled on her shoulders as the first tear of determination slid down her cheek. Claire took a deep breath and wiped away her tear. The world outside the attic window suddenly seemed more vivid, filled with the sound of children laughing, playfully chasing one another through the garden. That laughter was a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside her. She had to act. Mark's courage could not go unnoticed or uncelebrated. But how? As she gathered the scattered fragments of her husband's life, a plan began to take shape in her mind. The journal, filled with Mark's dreams and the stories of those he'd helped, would be her guide. I need to share this, she whispered to herself. People need to know who he really was. Claire stepped back down to the main floor, heart racing, purpose igniting inside her. The fading light of the day painted the room in golden hues as she found Lily and Ben in the living room, sprawled out with their toys. Their innocent joy was infectious, but it also reminded Claire of what she was fighting for. As she knelt down next to them, the weight of her resolve brightened her spirit. Hey sweetheart, she said softly. Do you know what your dad did for people? He helped so many out there. We should continue that. Together. They both looked up with wide eyes. Like superheroes? Ben asked, his small voice full of wonder. Exactly, Claire smiled, the warmth washing over her. Superheroes help everyone, don't they? Lily tilted her head, curiosity sparking. Can we help too, Mommy? Of course you can, Claire said, her heart swelling with pride and love. We're going to share stories about your dad, gather people together. Maybe even do something big to honor him. We want to help others too, just like he did. The idea of a community gathering buzzed in Claire's mind, setting off a flurry of passion deep inside. What if they could gather those he'd reached out to, unite them for a cause? The thought brought tears again, but this time they were tears of purpose. After dinner, she spread out the journal on the dining table, focused and filled with the determination to uncover the road ahead. Pages fluttered as she flipped through Mark's meticulous entries. Each one spoke of lives intertwined with his, their struggles hanging in the air like unaddressed shadows. She could see how he kept their stories close. That night, she pored through the words, fueled by coffee and a sense of urgency. As dawn broke, she made her first call. It was to a woman Mark had written about, a single mother struggling to make ends meet. A warmth enveloped her heart when she heard the woman's voice, full of hope despite the hardships. Days turned into a blur of phone calls and emails, connections transforming into a web of support and understanding. As the community began to respond, she could feel a tide rising, a collective recognition of the man they loved and lost, awakened by love and fueled by shared grief. Yet, with a growing sense of purpose, shadows still cast doubts in her mind. Would the people truly come together? Would Mark's legacy be seen as it should? Or would it be lost in the noise of their past? That evening, she pulled the journal close and whispered into the quiet of the room, I won't let them forget, Mark. Promise. Little did she know, as she closed her eyes that night, the most important chapter of her story was yet to be written, and it would test every ounce of courage she had left. As she drifted to sleep, a small flicker of hope ignited around her. But lurking in the shadows of the ranch was a mystery yet to be uncovered, one that could change everything she believed about her husband's past. Would she have the strength to face it? Or would it threaten the fragile unity she was building? Morning light streamed through the kitchen window, warming Claire's face, but the glow did little to soften her nerves. It was the day of the gathering. They had invited families and individuals from the town, each with their own connection to Mark. All she could feel was a knot tightening in her stomach. She busied herself with final preparations, brushing the last crumbs off the table, arranging chairs in a welcoming circle, and placing a picture of Mark at the center. His smiling face felt like a comforting presence, yet it brought up waves of emotion. Lily and Ben were coloring a banner that read, Superheroes Unite. Claire smiled watching them, but she was still consumed with worry. Would anyone show up? What if no one wanted to share their stories? The thought made her pulse race. The doorbell rang, sending a jolt of surprise through her. She opened the door to find Mrs. Peterson, an elderly neighbor with a gentle smile, holding a pie covered in a fluffy crust. Hi, Claire. I'm here to help, she said cheerfully. Oh, thank you. Claire breathed, her heart lightening. You're just in time. Soon after, others trickled in, friends, acquaintances, and people Claire barely recognized, but all connected by threads of Mark's kindness. With each new arrival, the atmosphere shifted, morphing from anxious silence to joyful chatter. As they settled in, Claire felt the knots in her stomach begin to loosen. Ben and Lily, their creative energies bubbling, ran around introducing everyone to the banner they made. Laughter erupted when they insisted, You have to sign it. Superheroes need your names. One by one, guests laughed and filled the banner with their names, creating a colorful tapestry of community. Claire took a deep breath and stepped to the front of the room. She could feel her heart thumping in her chest. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice steadying as she scanned the crowd. Today we celebrate Mark and the amazing impact he had on so many of us. As she spoke, stories began to unravel. Mrs. Peterson shared how Mark helped her grandson learn to read. A young man recounted how Mark helped him find a job after he lost hope. Each tale stitched a deeper connection, forming an invisible bond among them all. But amid the warmth, Claire noted a shadow, a man in the back who hadn't joined in. His brow furrowed, and Claire could sense that he carried a weight that set him apart from the others. She felt an urge to approach him. His name was John, a former client of Mark's. Claire learned that the last few months of Mark's life had been shrouded in more complexity than she'd understood. He mentioned a project that Mark had initiated, but never finished, an outreach program that aimed to support at-risk youth in the area. Do you think it would help to share more about that today? She ventured, her voice low. We need to honor his work, and maybe finish what he started, John replied. His eyes misty with emotion. Suddenly, the room felt electric with possibility. Claire's heart raced at the thought of not just remembering Mark but actively continuing his work, breathing life into his unfinished dreams. Before she could gather her thoughts, the sound of distant thunder rolled through, shaking the small ranch. A storm was brewing, but this was more than just weather. It felt like an omen, a warning that there were still secrets left in the shadows. As the rain began to patter against the roof, Claire wondered what else was lurking in Mark's past, and if John's presence would be the key to unraveling it. Would she dare dive deeper into the truth? With a renewed determination in her heart, she looked around at her community, ready to make a difference. Claire knew this was only the beginning, and she didn't yet know the full extent of the secrets waiting to be uncovered. What would she find out next, and how would it change everything she thought she knew about Mark? The chatter in the room quieted momentarily as the thunder rumbled again. A deep, growling sound that mirrored the uncertainty in Claire's heart. She had been ready to celebrate Mark tonight, to honor the stories of those he had touched. But John's revelation had added a heavy layer she hadn't anticipated. What was this outreach program? Why had she never known about it before? Claire glanced back at John. His eyes were fixed on the floor, grief and guilt entwined in a tight knot. She could sense he was wrestling with his own feelings, the burden of unfinished business pressing down on him. Taking a step closer, she lowered her voice. What more can you tell me about the outreach program? John hesitated, the shadows in his expression darkening. Mark had a vision. A way to help kids who felt like they had nowhere to go. He wanted to offer mentorship, create a safe space. His voice trailed off, heavy with the weight of dreams unfulfilled. Claire felt a blend of anger and sadness swell within her. Mark had spoken so little about his plans, shielding his ambitions behind a wall of silence. Why hadn't he shared this with her? Was it fear, pride, or something deeper? Suddenly Lily approached, her small hands clutching the edges of the banner they had created. Mom, can we tell them about the superhero stories? The innocence in her voice tugged at Claire's heart, reminding her of the joy and hope that this gathering was meant to represent. Yes, sweetie, let's do that, Claire replied, forcing a smile despite the turmoil brewing inside. Who wants to share their superhero story about Mark? The room came alive again, and one by one voices broke through the storm pounding against the windows. As stories flowed, each shared moment felt like a stitch in a quilt, weaving together the fabric of Mark's legacy. Laughter mingled with tears as people recalled his goofy jokes, tireless encouragement, and the warmth he offered effortlessly. Claire listened, her heart fluttering between pride and pain, but her eyes remained drawn to John. Every time laughter erupted from the crowd, she could see him shrink a little more into himself. His story needed to be heard. When the applause faded, Claire decided to speak up. Everyone, she began, the room stiffening in anticipation. We have someone here who knew a different side of Mark. Someone who was part of his dreams. She motioned to John, who looked startled but didn't resist. John, would you like to tell us about the outreach program? For a moment silence reigned. Claire's heart raced. Would he elaborate? Would he feel supported enough to open up? John inhaled deeply, the muscles in his neck tense. Mark wanted to start a program that would bring kids together, give them mentors who really cared. He truly believed that he could make a change. His voice wavered but grew stronger as he spoke, words pouring out like a dam breaking. But he was overwhelmed. I didn't help him the way I should have. I should have pushed him more. I lost touch with him when he needed me most. The air in the room shifted. Claire could almost feel everyone holding their breath. It was a moment of shared regret, a recognition that sometimes we fall short, even with the best intentions. John's shoulders shook as he continued, I want to see it through. I want to finish what he couldn't. Tears glimmered in Claire's eyes as she absorbed his honesty. She couldn't let Mark's legacy just fade away among whispered memories. She stepped forward, feeling the fire of resolve grow brighter inside her. Let us do this together. Let us finish it for Mark. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. People began to nod, enthusiasm sparking again. Plans started forming and ideas buzzed in the room. Then the sound of a loud crash outside shattered the air, making everyone jump. Claire's stomach dropped. It seemed the storm had worsened, and the storm inside her mirrored it. What was happening out there? With her heart pounding, Claire exchanged glances with John, their determination shining brightly against the fear creeping in. Something was definitely shifting. As Claire approached the door to investigate, she could feel the weight of the community behind her. The storm wasn't a mere coincidence. It was fate, and she couldn't turn back now. What awaited her outside, and would it change everything she had just chosen to fight for? The storm roared outside, shaking the windows of the community center as Claire pushed open the heavy door. A blast of wind nearly knocked her off her feet, whipping her hair around her face. Rain pummeled the ground, creating a symphony of sound that drowned out the murmurs of the crowd behind her. She squinted into the dark, searching for the source of the crash. Just a few steps away, she noticed the lamppost swaying perilously, branches from an old oak tree flailing helplessly in the wind. Claire breathed in deeply, heart racing as she stepped further into the chaos. The rain dripped from her brow, and she glanced back to see John following her, hesitant but resolute. "Are you okay?" Claire yelled over the din, turning slightly. There was no time for doubt. The urgency of the moment pushed her forward. "I'm fine. Just worried about everyone," John shouted back, concern flooding his voice. He raised his hands toward the crowd still gathering inside, peering through the glass and fumbling to secure windows against the storm. Together they could sense this night was already changing. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed, this time much closer, like metal clanging on concrete. Both Claire and John exchanged alarmed looks. There was something unnatural about it. A sound that didn't belong to the storm. "Let us check it out," Claire said, trying to keep her voice steady. Her gut told her they needed to act fast. As they approached the fringes of the storm, a figure emerged from the shadows, darting between the flickering lights. "Hey, you! Stop!" Claire shouted, her instincts kicking in as she grabbed John's arm. "Stay close." The rain poured even harder, mixing with mud and debris. They ran toward the direction of the sound. Claire's heart drummed in time with her footfalls. What if it was someone needing help? Or worse, someone who posed a threat? As they rounded a corner, Claire spotted an overturned pickup truck, its contents strewn everywhere. A backpack lying open on the ground. Bits of paper and supplies rolled in the water, pooling around their feet. She knelt down, grabbing at the notes to assess the situation. Instinct told her something was off. Her eyes widened as she saw names and words that jolted her heart. Outreach, transition, hope. It was a list of kids and plans, things Mark had thought about. "Claire, look," John said, holding something up. It was a colorful flyer that had escaped from the bag. "This is from the outreach program. I recognize this." Claire felt a rush of mixed emotions. Hope surged, but dread coiled in her stomach. Could this be what Mark was working on? She carefully examined the remaining papers, her fingers trembling. This was more than just scattered belongings. It felt like a buried treasure. Just then the ground rumbled beneath them, and Claire lifted her eyes, scanning their surroundings. Anxiety twisted through her as she wondered if there was more to discover, or perhaps something that shouldn't have been unearthed. "Claire, this isn't just debris," John whispered, looking pale. "There's something, I feel like there's something here we're not meant to find." Her heart raced. What was hidden in the shadows of the storm, waiting for them to uncover? Suddenly, a sinister wind whipped through, snatching the flyer from John's hands. It spiraled upward, caught on the branches of that ominous oak, just like their fears were being drawn out into the storm. Claire took a deep breath, steeling herself. "We have to follow this lead. If it's connected to Mark, we can't leave it here." As they moved forward, a flash of lightning illuminated the night sky, and Claire felt that undeniable pull of destiny, facing whatever mysteries awaited. What other secrets would the storm reveal about Mark's hidden life, and would they be ready to confront them? The wind howled like a wild animal, and Claire felt it deep within her bones. She exchanged one last glance with John, who nodded, his expression firm despite the growing dread in her chest. They steered away from the wreckage of the truck, the paper fluttering above them like a warning flag. There was raw power in the storm, and it felt personal now. "Where's it going?" John shouted, pointing to the flyer still clinging to the oak branches. It seemed to dance with a life of its own, taunting them with its vibrant colors against the dark sky. I think it's leading us somewhere, Claire responded, tracing her fingers through the rain-soaked ground. It might be a sign. Just then a crash echoed once more, this time accompanied by the sound of splintering wood. Claire's heart plummeted. That can't be good, she whispered, fear gnawing at her. She had a feeling something in this storm was pulling them deeper into danger. This way, John urged, pulling her toward a small path that wound its way into the thick foliage. The branches loomed overhead like guardians, twisting and curling as if hiding secrets of their own. They staggered through the underbrush, breathless from the rain and mounting urgency as they pressed on. The ground became uneven beneath them, and Claire's pulse quickened. She wasn't sure if it was from fear or anticipation. Each jagged breath fueled her determination. We need to figure out what Mark was doing, she insisted, almost to herself. Everything felt too connected, too significant. Suddenly they stumbled upon a clearing. The flash of lightning revealed a makeshift shelter. A small cabin half hidden by vines and overgrown bushes. Claire squinted, trying to make sense of the sight. It looked abandoned, but there was something undeniably familiar about it. Claire, I think I've been here before, John said softly, his voice tinged with disbelief. When I was a kid, Mark used to bring us here for the summer. Her stomach tightened. Was it even safe to investigate? You mean Mark had a place like this all along? It felt like a betrayal of sorts, even if he had justified it as an outreach mission. They both knew secrets could poison a mission built on trust. Another rumble from the storm whipped around them, urging them on. They moved closer to the cabin, the door hanging ajar as if beckoning them in. Claire hesitated, uncertainty crawling into her throat, but John stepped forward, nudging the door with his foot as it creaked open. Darkness spilled out, mingling with the cold rain and salt-laden air. I can't shake the feeling that something is waiting for us inside, John said, glancing back at her for reassurance. His confidence had morphed. A flip of the coin from dread to brave curiosity. With a deep breath, Claire took a step into the unknown. Inside, the stale air enveloped her like an old memory long forgotten. Dust motes danced in the thin beams of light that filtered through the cracked windows. What if this holds everything we're looking for? She whispered almost reverently. As they crossed the threshold, an old table caught her eye, littered with papers and photographs, barely illuminated. They were everywhere, documents and fading pictures. A hidden life unfolding in the dimness, a chaotic collage of plans and promises. Just like that, a legacy she barely knew was waiting for her. Claire's heart hammered as she reached for a photo curling at the edges. In it, Mark stood surrounded by smiling kids, their faces shining with happiness. Her breath caught as she recognized one. Isn't he that? Just then, a crash erupted behind them, a sudden jolt that sent a shiver racing down her spine. They weren't alone. What was that? John's voice echoed in the hushed cabin. Claire's eyes darted back to the door, terror and urgency crashing over her. Let us find out, she said, bracing herself, unwilling to retreat from whatever dark presence was about to reveal itself. Would they be ready for the truth hidden within the cabin's shadows? Or would the storm swallow them whole? The air thickened with uncertainty as Claire turned to face the door, heart racing wildly in her chest. Shadows danced around her, creating eerie shapes in the dim light. John, she whispered, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on her. I know, he replied, his eyes narrowing toward the door. What if it's just the wind? But neither of them truly believed that. They both felt the tension in the air, something sharp and alive like a coiled spring ready to snap. Let us check it out. Together, Claire said, gripping his arm tightly. She wasn't sure what awaited them beyond the door, but she knew one thing for certain. They couldn't back down now. The storm outside continued its symphony of chaos, drowning out their fears as they moved closer to the threshold. The gusts howled and reverberated against the old cabin like a ghost. It was unsettling. John pushed the door open wider, revealing the darkened porch. Shadows loomed threateningly around, making every rustle of leaves sound like a distant voice beckoning. After you, John said, though his voice was shaky. Claire took a deep breath, steeling herself. As they stepped outside, the rain soaked them instantly, the cold sending shivers down their spines. Standing on the porch, they scanned the night for any sign of movement. Just raindrops and darkness promised more than the storm around them. But then they heard it again, a distinct crash, but this time closer. "This way," John whispered urgently, pointing toward the side of the cabin. They rushed down the rotting wooden steps, the muddy ground swallowing their footsteps. The big oak tree stood firm in the storm's wrath, its branches creaking ominously. Whispers of adrenaline coursed through Claire as the storm raged around them. "Do you think it's an animal?" she asked, breath hitching in fear. She couldn't help feeling that whatever it was, it had a heavier weight than simple wildlife. "I don't know, but we need to know what it is. Mark knew this place, though maybe he left clues." John's face was determined, yet apprehensive. They reached the oak tree, its branches swaying like arms in distress. Lightning flashed, illuminating the ground beneath them. And there, partially obscured by the fallen leaves, lay an old wooden box. It was weather-beaten and half-buried, but there was no mistaking it. This wasn't just debris. It looked intentional. "Help me," John urged, kneeling down beside the box. Together, they dug it out with their hands, mud caking their fingers as they uncovered it. An eerie silence surrounded them, creating a space where fear twisted with expectancy. "What do you think is inside?" Claire asked, wiping her wet hair from her forehead. "Only one way to find out," John said, his voice quickening with excitement and dread alike. Carefully, he worked the rusted lock until it snapped open, the dull sound seemingly loud in the heavy air. As the box creaked open, Claire's breath caught in her throat. Inside lay old photographs similar to the ones in the cabin, but these were dated. Names scrawled in Mark's handwriting beneath the images set off a flood of memories, faces from children's summer camps, faded but filled with laughter. Then her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. "What's this?" Claire breathed, pulling it out. It was a small locket, dented but shining. She opened it to find a photograph of a woman she didn't recognize, someone who must have meant something to Mark. "Do you think she was part of all this?" John asked, his voice faltering. Claire's heart sank as questions spiraled in her mind. Who was this woman? What had Mark hidden beneath the layers of secrecy that were now unfurling before her? Suddenly, a voice broke through the chaos around them, sharp and clear as the storm screamed above. "What are you doing here?" They spun around, eyes wide in horror as they faced the figure stepping out of the shadows, drenched but unmistakably alive. "Who are you?" Claire gasped, fear mixing with something deeper, a swirling anxiety as the storm roared on. "What do you want with Mark's legacy?" the figure demanded, and Claire's heart felt like it would pound out of her chest. This was just the beginning. They were being pulled deeper into a web of secrets. Would they uncover the truth behind Mark's past, or become trapped in its deadly grasp? Clouds rumbled overhead, and the rain poured down, mixing with the chill in the air as Claire faced the mysterious figure. The beams of lightning illuminated the scene, casting a wild glow on the stranger's face, a face that held secrets just as tightly as the storm clung to the night. "I am Claire," she stammered, trying to steady her voice amid the chaos. "This is John. We're looking for answers about Mark." The figure's eyes narrowed. "Answers? You think you can just come here after everything that happened? What do you mean?" John's voice broke through the tension. His protective gaze shifted between Claire and the stranger as if both could shatter under the storm's weight. A flicker of something, fear, maybe, or anger crossed the figure's expression. "You don't know what you're dealing with. Mark's legacy isn't just photographs and memories. It's dangerous." Claire felt a jolt of panic, but curiosity gripped her. "What do you know about Mark?" She took a tentative step forward, her heart racing in sync with the thunder. "I knew him before he turned this place into a fortress," the stranger replied, glancing over their shoulders as if expecting someone else to emerge from the darkness. "This was one of the last places he came to hide. You need to leave now." "No." Claire shook her head, clutching the locket tightly, her fingers trembling. "Whatever he hid here, it matters. I need to know who he was and what happened to him." The stranger's gaze softened for just a moment, revealing a flicker of understanding, then it was gone. "You're digging in the past that shouldn't be unearthed. The things here, they could hurt you." John stepped in front of Claire, protective instinct flaring. "We've come this far and we're not turning back. What do you know that we don't?" Before the figure could respond, another flash of lightning illuminated the area, and a sharp crack of thunder followed, shaking the ground beneath them. The figure turned toward the cabin, eyes wide. You need to decide right now before it's too late. What are you talking about? Claire felt her voice falter as she stepped up beside John. You're right to question Mark's life, but his secrets aren't just memories wrapped in photographs, the figure continued, urgency lacing their tone. They're alive, waiting for those who dig too deep. If you find the truth, you might not like what it leads to. What are we supposed to do? John pressed, frustration building. Just walk away? No, Claire shouted, her fear igniting determination. Mark was my husband. I can't leave without understanding who he really was, and why he hid this part of his life. As tension hung in the air like a taut string, the stranger hesitated, their expression shifting again. Then listen carefully. If you're going to stay, find the shed behind the cabin, the one covered with vines. Go there first. But I warn you, once you start this path, there may be no turning back. Before they could respond, the figure turned and disappeared into the rain, leaving Claire and John alone on the soaked ground, the pounding storm masking their thoughts. What just happened? John breathed, still scanning the area for any clue of their mysterious visitor. I don't know, Claire admitted, feeling overwhelmed, but we can't ignore it. If there's more to find, we owe it to Mark to uncover the truth. With resolute hearts, they trudged toward the cabin glistening in the storm, the weight of the locket heavy in Claire's pocket, the only connection they had to the secrets now rising to the surface. As they approached the back of the cabin, Claire felt a shiver down her spine. What would they discover in the shed? Would the truth about Mark offer closure? Or would it open a door to something darker than they could have ever anticipated? Each step echoed uncertainty, and when they reached the weathered wooden door, Claire's breath caught in her throat. There was no turning back now. What lies behind this door could change everything, she whispered, her heart pounding, waiting for John to take the lead. Would they find answers or a nightmare waiting to unfold? Claire reached for the handle, her fingers trembling with anticipation and fear. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a dimly lit interior that smelled of musty wood and wet earth. John stepped inside first, flashlight in hand, illuminating the cluttered space. Old tools, dusty crates, and remnants of long-forgotten projects cluttered the floor, but it was the corners that caught Claire's eye. Over here, she urged. Her voice hushed as she made her way toward a half-buried chest beneath a tangle of vines. The chest was old, covered in dirt and moss, but Claire felt a magnetic pull towards it. Perhaps it was the promise of secrets inside, or the hope that it would lead her to the truth about Mark. As Claire knelt beside the chest, her heart raced. She pulled on the lid, which resisted at first, but with a determined push, it creaked open. What lay inside sent shockwaves through her. Stacks of photographs spilled out. They showed Mark not as the husband she remembered, but in moments of laughter, sadness, and shadows. Some pictures revealed him with people Claire didn't recognize. Men and women with cautious smiles and eyes that seemed to flicker with untold stories. She clutched one that depicted Mark standing in front of what looked like an abandoned factory, the sky ominously dark behind him. John leaned over her shoulder, his expression a mixture of confusion and concern. What is it? He asked softly, wary of the energy swirling around them. Claire didn't respond immediately. Instead, she sifted through the photos, her fingers brushing over each one, as if they were a lifeline to a version of Mark she had never known. In one image, he was holding a child. His child? The thought made her stomach twist. Unearthing these buried memories felt like she was peeling away layers of deception. There's something here, she murmured, her voice trembling. She reached deeper into the chest, fingers brushing against something hard and cool. A metal box wrapped in a ragged cloth. Her breath quickened as she pulled it out. What's that? John asked, the remaining warmth in his voice cooling with unsteady apprehension. I don't know, but it feels important, she replied, unwrapping the cloth with cautious fingers. The box was old and slightly rusted, engraved with symbols she couldn't decipher. Do you think it's a clue or some kind of treasure? John asked, trying to lighten the mood, though concern etched deep lines across his forehead. Maybe it's a mistake trying to figure this out, Claire said, uncertainty creeping back. Still, her resolve hardened. But it's our only chance to know him. I can't turn away now. As the rain beat down outside, the world beyond faded away. With trembling hands, she lifted the lid of the box. Inside, a collection of documents sprawled out, each one fading creased, holding whispers of a life lived in shadows. But it was one piece of paper on top that caught her eye. It was an address, scrawled hastily, but it was familiar, not just any address. It was the old factory from the photos. "Claire, this might be dangerous," John warned, his voice low, yet wrapped in urgency. "What if this leads to I have to go?" Claire replied, feeling the fire of determination burn more brightly within her. "This might explain everything. It's Mark's last attempt to connect with me, to lead me somewhere he thought was important. I can't walk away now, especially not when we're this close." John's eyes softened, battling to find the right words. Finally, he nodded. Acceptance mingled with trepidation. "'Kay, but I'm coming with you. No more secrets." Claire couldn't help but feel a rush of gratitude. This journey was bigger than either of them. And as they huddled over the chest, keeping warmth against the chill, she realized the dangerous path ahead was also an opportunity. Would they unearth the truth of Mark's hidden life? Or uncover something that would change everything forever? The weight of the box in her hands seemed to pulse with those fears and hopes, drawing them both deeper into the mystery that had begun to entwine their lives. "All right," Claire whispered, her voice steady despite the storm raging outside. "Let us go to the factory." But as they stepped back into the rain, Claire felt a chill run down her spine. There was something more lurking in the shadows, something she hadn't counted on. Would the answers they sought come at too great a cost? The deafening roar of the storm echoed in Claire's ears as she and John approached the old factory, its silhouette looming ominously against the darkened sky. Raindrops pattered against her skin, but the adrenaline coursing through her veins kept her heart racing with purpose. They were on the brink of unveiling Mark's hidden life, but with every step came a tightening knot of anxiety. "Stay close," John urged, his flashlight cutting through the sheets of rain, illuminating the overgrown path leading to the factory entrance. It felt like they were stepping into a forgotten world, a place where secrets lay sleeping, waiting for them to awaken. They reached the entrance, the rusty, swinging doors creaking eerily as they pushed them open. The air was thick and musty, curiosity mingling with fear. Dust motes danced in the dim light that filtered through broken windows. Claire glanced back at John, his determined expression matching the fierce resolve in her heart. Together, they were ready to uncover the truth. "Keep an eye out," Claire whispered, feeling the weight of the locket in her pocket. It was heavy with the promise of answers and perhaps a few painful revelations. They moved cautiously through the vast, empty space, the remnants of a once thriving factory strewn about. As they navigated the debris, Claire's thoughts surged. What had Mark really been doing here? Suddenly, they stumbled upon a room at the back, its door slightly ajar. A flicker of unease held Claire in place. "Do you feel that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's like something is pulling me toward it." "Let us check it out," John replied, his voice steady despite the tremor in the air. They pushed the door open wider and stepped inside, their hearts pounding loudly in their chests. The walls were lined with old photographs and newspaper clippings, showcasing scenes from the community, happy faces, family gatherings, and a few ominous headlines about crime and despair lurking beneath the surface. Some of the photos showed Mark in action, tirelessly working with children, advocating for their well-being. Claire felt a warmth bloom in her chest, mixing with the dread of what other truths might reveal themselves. She scanned each piece of evidence, piecing together a puzzle that was far more complex than she'd ever imagined. Then, tucked away behind some old filing cabinets, she spotted a weathered box sealed with a delicate ribbon. "John, look!" she exclaimed, rushing to uncover it. The moment she touched the surface, she felt a jolt of energy course through her fingertips, an undeniable connection to the past. "Be careful, Claire," John cautioned, his eyes softening as he approached her. "What if it contains something dangerous? But it could also lead us to the answers we're looking for," Claire replied, her breathing quickening. With trembling fingers, she unwrapped the ribbon and opened the box. Inside were letters, every one of them addressed to Mark from individuals he had helped. As Claire began to read, emotions washed over her, the strength of hope, despair, love. Each letter unfolded a story of someone Mark had impacted. One letter spoke of a young girl who had lost her way, finding solace under Mark's guidance. Another described a single father, inspired by Mark to rebuild his life for his children. Tears welled in her eyes as she read the words penned by the families whose lives he had touched, revealing the legacy he wanted to build. Claire could feel the weight of each letter, as if they breathed whispers of encouragement, urging her onward. Claire, John's voice broke into her thoughts. This is incredible. He knew how to reach them. But why didn't he ever tell me? Claire said, wiping a tear away. Why did he keep this from me? A sense of betrayal mingled with understanding, yet an unwavering determination sparked inside. Just then, a loud crash echoed outside, tearing Claire from her thoughts. She leapt to her feet, instinctively pulling John close to her. We need to go. No, he insisted. We're so close to unraveling the truth. Fighting against fear. Claire shook her head. Could be dangerous. We can come back. We need to regroup. As if in answer to her plea, the storm's ferocity grew, and outside the factory, thunder rolled menacingly. The air crackled with electricity. They both sensed it. The danger lurked just beyond their safety, a warning that they weren't alone anymore. With one last glance at the open box, Claire felt a tug in her chest. We need to take these letters. They're part of his story too. She gathered them carefully, her heart steadying with every piece of evidence she tucked away. They might not understand it all just yet, but together they would honor Mark's truth. And that moment, they stepped outside, ready to face whatever storm awaited them. Rain soaked them to the bone, but they fought against the elements, their courage rising with each step. This journey wasn't just about Mark's past. It was a path toward a future filled with hope, resilience, and unity. As they made their way back through the twisted path, Claire's heart was lighter. She had unearthed a part of Mark she never thought she would know. And more importantly, she had felt his presence guiding her. A flame amidst the storm. Mark's legacy would not fade or be silenced. Determination coursed through her veins as she and John faced the night. Together they would build something beautiful, turning shadows into light, just like Mark had done. The storm raged around them, but in that chaos, Claire knew that she would find her way forward. This was just the beginning, and she wouldn't stop until the truth was fully illuminated. Together they would carry the stories of love and resilience to their community, honoring Mark and transforming lives forever. Don't hold back now. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. We want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.